Hi, my name is Mark. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I became a nurse. I was shy growing up. I only mention that because when I finally got to the age to where you would start to think a little bit about what you wanted to be when you grow up, I actually found myself thinking about different jobs that would involve working with people. I used to think I wanted to be maybe a pastor, um, but God led me in a different direction. Even from a young age, I was always looking out for other people. I naturally shepherded my younger brother. When I was at school, I would always make sure that the other students, that if they were left out, if they were eating lunch by themselves, or if they were handicapped, anything like that, I was always kind of keeping an eye on them, making sure they were all good. And I think I got a lot of that from my mother. Um, my father wasn't around much growing up. He worked late nights and long hours. And I spent a lot of my time at home with my mom and my brother. And she was a very sensitive person. She still, to this day, will get teary-eyed whenever the lost dog or cat commercials come on TV. But she really modeled what it meant to be empathetic towards others and to just pay attention to other people and to not just be so inwardly focused. Um, she was a secretary. She didn't have a very high-profile job like my father. My father was an engineer and a supervising engineer at that, so he was very high up in the food chain. My mom, on the other hand, took care of the attorneys at her law firm, just being a secretary. But she was everything to me growing up, just heart of gold. And at night is when we would talk, usually at dinner time, just the three of us. She was just generous. She was always making sure my brother and I had everything that we wanted. And we grew very close from a young age. When I finally got to college, and that's when you start thinking, hey, what do I want to be? It's time. I thought, well, obviously I want to be a doctor, so I signed up pre-med, and I did that for about 3 years, and then the worst happened. My parents got divorced, and it crushed me, and I eventually dropped out of school and left my hometown and moved to the West Coast and got into music and did very well in it. And right about the time that career was taking off and really starting to make money and have a name for myself out there, I got a phone call from my mom. And she told me, hey, your grandmother is dying. She's had a stroke and they don't think she's going to make it through the weekend. And I immediately rushed home and said my goodbyes to her, and we all were, in and out of the hospital room. And the funny thing happened, God spared her and she lived. And it was no question in who in the family was going to take care of her. It was going to be me. And I put my job in Los Angeles on hold. And I bought a house here in Chattanooga, and I moved her in with me, and I took care of her. And it just came natural. And it took 4 years for her to finally pass away, and I spent those 4 years taking care of her. And after that experience, I knew I wanted to go back into the medical field, but not as a doctor, as a nurse. And it was the best thing I ever did, hardest thing I ever did, the best thing I ever did. And but just full circle, just took me about 10 years to figure it out. But that's how I became a nurse.